Hello ladies and gentlemen, I hope you all are doing good. Please allow me to warmly welcome all of you. This is Prashant Mavani, and I believe you are curious enough to know what we have got in the Hindu analysis of 8th September 2017. Now before we crack on, let me remind you that today is the last day for you to get, or you can exploit, the 30% discount that is available on our pen drive and tablet courses. So if you haven't ordered it yet, I would highly recommend all of you to do it as soon as possible. It is now or never. Now let's start with something positive or something delighting. Now the Prime Minister's visit to Myanmar concludes. Yesterday, Prime Minister visited many places of religious and historic importance, and let me remind you that Myanmar is a Buddhist majority country, and what Prime Minister did yesterday is something that is going to build, or something that is going to cement the relation between India and Myanmar for the longest period of time. Now starting with he visited a mazar of last Mughal Emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar. Now this is associated with Mughal history, and it is also associated with the freedom struggle of our country. Remember, this is the first organized revolt that took place in India. Before that as well, we had many incidents of as you can say conflict between many tribal communities in different part of India and British East India Company. But this is the time, this is one of the major milestone in Indian history. So you may expect questions coming from this part from 1857, and if you go through the papers of mains examination as well as prelims, then you will find that out of 10 times you will at least find in 5 different, or more than that, you may find it more than 6 instances where questions on this portion is asked. I would highly recommend all of you to analyze it thoroughly, right? You should be aware about the facts. You should also have a good grip. When I say good grip, I mean in-depth understanding on this thing, right? Then the other thing is that yesterday the Ministry of Minority Affairs, the minister basically inaugurated a function in Mumbai, and this function is going to take on it is going to be done in 39 different locations of our country, and the main theme here is Sankalp Se Siddhi, right, for New India for 2022. Now we have talked about it, and I would like to remind you that in this inauguration as well, or in this exhibition, this 1857, the incident of 1857 is going to be displayed as well. So there are strong evidences that you may find question from this portion. Now coming to the Buddhist majority or the Buddhism topic, Prime Minister visited Shwedogan Pagoda, that is an ancient 2,500-year-old religious monument. Here you can see Prime Minister is keenly observing the different statues that are placed here. Now this Shwedogan Pagoda is important because it has relics of Buddha's hair. It has Buddha's hair here, and it has other holy relics as well. One of the most important, or something that is not widely reported, but if you read between the lines, you find that this was of course mentioned that he has planted a sapling of Buddha tree. Now Buddha tree is a tree in India, in Bodh Gaya, under which Buddha got enlightenment, right? Now this tree, this sapling, has been implanted in many different parts of the world. And imagine if you are from Myanmar, or if you are if you visit that temple and if you find a tree over there, and if someone tells you that this is the tree under which, or this is the tree or a sapling from which the tree which you can see is coming directly from India, and it was the Indian government or Narendra Modi government that took this initiative. This is something, this is building soft power, right? This step is building soft power. It will It is a step that will win the heart and mind of the people of Myanmar. Apart from that, we have talked about Kaladan project as well. Now you know that one of the most important thing regarding this Kaladan multimodal project is that it is going, for the first time in the history, the northeastern states of our country will have access to ocean. It is generally landlocked, not generally, it is landlocked, but with this Kaladan, it will get connection to it. Apart from that, from Myanmar's side, you might have observed that, or we know it very well for a fact, that Muslims of our country, it is generally speaking, it is a dream of every Muslim in our country to, if he or she can visit Makkah and Medina, right? Because it is the most holiest place for Muslim people. In the same manner, it is a dream, or it is an aspiration of every Myanmarese citizen to visit the places that are associated with Buddha. So this Kaladan project provides a cheaper access or cheaper route for visiting India. So it is going to boost tourism as well. He performed puja at Kalibari temple, and he also visited the museum of Aung San. Aung San is father of Suu Kyi. Together we generally hear Aung San Suu Kyi. So Suu Kyi is the daughter who is at present the state councillor, and Aung San, he is revered as just like we revere Mahatma Gandhi. So visiting his museum, again, it is building soft power, right? So very well played. This is how diplomacy works in practical terms, right? Moving on to other things, to editorials, vigils on vigilantes. This is about Supreme Court reminding center and states. We have talked about it a little bit yesterday, but today we find an editorial in the Hindu, so let's analyze it. Now, it is very sad to know that Supreme Court has to remind people in power, particularly the center and the state, to take action against those people who are indulging in violence. We have recently seen that it was the High Court who ordered Ram Rahim, that Gurpreet Ram Rahim, they punished him, and for the longest time these people were getting accumulated and the state government was not doing anything, and finally what happened, that we saw a wide sort of violence taking place in different parts of India. So, and this cow incidents, these people who are killing in the name of cow, these things are happening for the longest period of time in our country, and now the solution that Supreme Court has found is that it has asked all the states and union territories. The reason is that even Indian police services, right, you join IPS, then you will finally would be working under any state or union territory. So policing is a subject of states. So that is the reason why Supreme Court has ordered states and union territories to appoint nodal police officers. States like Gujarat, for example, have decided to appoint Deputy Superintendent of Police, which we commonly known as DYSP. So DYSPs are going to look after, or they are going to be the nodal police officers, and it could be different in different states. And these incidents are taking place, as I told you, for the longest period of time, like what happened last year and this year, in April 2017, the Supreme Court issued notice to center and some states to take actions against this hooligan people. And after April, it has been reported there were 2 incidents in West Bengal where a mob and group of people have killed someone, and in Bihar as well there was one incident was recorded. So this is really sad. Yesterday we were talking about unity in diversity, and today we are finding this sort of situation. The other thing that I would like to highlight here is that there are some states in which cow protectors have legal recognition, as local laws provide the local laws in these states, they provide immunity to them if they are taking, or if they say that they have taken action in good faith. This means that, say for example, I'm living in state X, right? This is a state in which I have, or the law provides me this sort of power. Now, if I want to take revenge on someone, and or me or my fellows want to take revenge on someone, then I will beat that guy up or maybe kill him, and then I would say that I was taking, I did this in good faith because this person was coming here to kill cows. So this is a never going to end thing, and it is the duty of administration, it is the duty of police to ensure that law is implemented. Everyone respects law, right? It is not, one cannot expect citizens to do this thing, and of course it requires training, it requires experience. You cannot run the show with this sort of unprofessional or untrained people. Now again, the validity of this law will also be checked during the proceedings, the case that is going on in Supreme Court. The other important items and why these things do take place in our country is because we have reactive and non-active police and administration. It is something which is very common. I don't have to explain too much about it. We know very well that we have seen it in Bollywood films as well, and this happens in real life as well, that police, they are very intelligent when it comes to the place from where they can get money, isn't it? If there is a bootlegger or someone who is engaged in illegal activities, and the person is providing money under the table, then the police will be knowing who is doing what. But when it comes to this sort of incidents, or I don't know why they cannot deploy some intelligence, or why can't they use some spies to find out information regarding what groups are doing what, isn't it? And the other thing is that prevention is one of the core duty of policing. It is no point in catching the criminals if the good side, or in reality what should have happened is they should create an environment, particularly the police people, that this sort of incidents do not take place. We have seen that it takes ages in our country to take any sort of this sort of criminal activities to its logical conclusion. That's one of the reason. And why it takes ages? Because the reporting of police, the way they do, or the way they conduct investigation is all still of 18th or 19th century. Then the other thing is that it has been found that most of the times the case are registered against the victims itself, and the administration as well. Whenever this sort of incidents do take place, then the administration is eager to find whether the person who was or the person whether is murdered, or the victim whether that person was indulging with this sort of cow slaughter thing or not, rather than finding the culprits. Supreme Court has also reminded the center and the state about, particularly the center, about Article 256 of the Constitution, very important article. Now what basically here it is given the definition of Article 256. Let me break it down for you. Basically 256 means that all the states, right, all the states in our country has to, the way they execute their powers, or the way they do things, it should be in line with the laws that are made by the parliament, because we know that the parliament is at the top, right? Here is the parliament, and then you have different states. So all the laws that parliament makes is applicable to all throughout our country. Now I'm not going into detail regarding Jammu and Kashmir here, but for the sake of understanding, I think this should be suffice. Now the other thing is that as per Article 256, just in case if the state finds that if the center finds that the states are not following the laws that are made by the parliament, then center can always issue necessary directions, right? These are the two important things regarding Article 256. Now one more question that pops up in my mind when I read this article or read this issue is that we have seen that Prime Minister Narendra Modi he did pass his warning during I think 2 or 3 places in different forums. He has talked about, or he has released his warning regarding all these hooligans. He also termed them that these people who are calling themselves protectors of cow are in the night time hooligans and indulging in all sort of criminal activities. Now the question is that Prime Minister Narendra Modi, no doubt, is one of the most influential leader we have got, right? And this is the person who once calls for when he gives a call to the people that take up the broom and let's start cleaning India, then everyone without thinking, we have started it, isn't it? It's a good thing as well, there is no doubt about it. He is the leader who has taken tough stands like demonetization. Under his leadership we got GST, right? At the world level as well, he is placing India to altogether a different zone. On his one call, ministers do quit, isn't it, without revolting. But I don't know why, after his warning, if on one side we see that he is so powerful that he can do all these things, and on the other side his warning are not paid any heed by all these hooligans, so that means there is something going on within the system as well, isn't it? There would be few people, I'm not saying that Prime Minister is indulging in this sort of things. What I'm trying to highlight here is that there would be some groups who are interested in carrying on, and they are not even paying any heed to the warning that is given by one of the most influential person in our country at present. And it is also a core duty of government, particularly in a democracy, right? A government is duty bound to provide a safe environment in which minorities can prosper. Moving on to another item, this is regarding social revolution in a JAM. JAM basically means Jandan, Aadhaar and Mobile. Now it starts with with a reference to Facebook post which was published by Arun Jaitley on the 3rd anniversary of Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. You know, this Yojana was released for financial inclusion. That means if you don't have bank account, in India we have many people, or we used to have millions of people who have never visited bank because they never had they never had a bank account. So this was released for opening bank account, and on 3rd year, this is the statement that is coming out. Finance Minister said that after GST, India became one market, one nation, one India, and the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana and JAM revolution can link all Indians into one common financial, economic and digital space. Now this writer here, he agrees with financial and digital space, but he has his own views, and which are very enlightening on he is not agreeing with this economic inclusion. So basically, let's analyze it. JAM, as I told you, Jan Dhan Aadhaar Mobile. Now Jan Dhan is basically opening bank accounts, particularly for the poor. So even if you have driving license or any sort of identity card, you can go there, and without any other documents you can get a bank account. One of the most easiest bank account opening scheme. Aadhaar card, it works as your identity. And the third is mobile phones, through which you can make, any poor person also can make digital payments. If he gets money, then he will get a message as a notification. So these are the things regarding JAM. With this, government has saved huge amount of money as well. If we talk about LPG subsidy, then we have saved somewhere around 56,000 crore rupees. So this itself indicates that JAM is working quite well. Now there is also a sad thing that is coming out from here, if we read between the lines, and that is that our banks have been nationalized for the longest period of time. It has been decades, right? And then as well, they were not able to extend this sort of banking services to the poor people. There is no doubt that Narendra Modi government has done quite well here. So financial inclusion wise, yes, it is going very well, but economical inclusion, we'll check it out. Now financial inclusion in the sense, it basically means that everyone has a bank account and everyone has access to reliable and free electronic payment system. But economic inclusion does not mean that. Economic inclusion is something wider. It basically means that everyone has equal opportunity or equal access to opportunity, particularly regarding earning a livelihood. That means employment opportunities for everyone. Do you think we have that? I don't think so, no. There are so many huge amount of people. We know that India requires nearly 1 crore jobs every year, isn't it? Or more than 1 crore. 1 crore jobs, of course, every month, right? We definitely need more than that. The government is targeting to create 1 crore jobs every year. And the thing regarding India is that every year, every month, right, every month we get 10 lakh new people coming into labor market. That means demand and supply. There is a sort of mismatch here, because we have, if we go through this figure, then we find that we would have 1 crore 20 lakh people ready to work every year. The target is to create 1 crore jobs, and are we able to do that? No, we are not able to produce this many jobs. So because of that, we find huge amount of unemployment in our country as well. Yesterday I told you about how there is underemployment, in fact, in specialists and surgeons as well. We are talking about one of the highest or highly qualified people, doctors, right, surgeons. They are also going through underemployment. And this can be sorted out only when there is when there is a continuous demand in goods and services, because the way labor is a sort of derived, it works on a derived demand. That means if the wheels of services and goods are in motion, that means if the businesses are flourishing or the whole economy is doing well, right, if every day you are getting new business, then of course you will try to expand it. Once you expand it, then you will ask more people to come and work for you. So in this way you would need more people, so the labor class would be absorbed. Now the next, even when the demand for labor exists, one of the most important thing is to know whether the people that you have in your country, or the people who want to work in your country or are ready to work in your country, are they capable enough to do all sorts of jobs, right? Do we have people who are capable enough? Now this is the big question that is being asked in this. It is more about capabilities, right? Employment opportunities related with labor, and labor is direct. Your capabilities will define whether you will be absorbed or not in a economy. Now the potential of JAM here is limited. It cannot do anything for, if you don't have capabilities, then it cannot. Of course it is good for your financial inclusion and all these things, but it is not going to provide you any sort of jobs, right? It won't increase your capabilities. And the thing regarding India is that since 1999, when we got when we opened our market, liberalized everything, our liberalization was also not holistic. We focused only on laws and procedures, and these were the only things that were taken into consideration by the government. But the other things, the whole ecosystem of business, was not taken into consideration. And this is the thing that we are facing, this sort of situation here. Here he talks about a producer services. Now this is very interesting. Producer services basically means that say for example, if you plan to open a company in any state or any place, then you would naturally think that do you have access to electricity, do you have access to water for any sorts of goods or services which you produce in your factory, whether you have road connectivity, whether you have good transport connectivity, telecommunication connectivity. These are the things, right, that one would look for. And if you don't find them in any place, then naturally you are not going to invest over there. You will definitely find a place where you can get all these things along with your market and your supply of raw material. And we can imagine that you cannot take everything in your hand. As an entrepreneur, you won't be able to build roads, and you won't be able to release or purchase spectrum if you just want to use a couple of mobile phones. So naturally someone else has to do it, and generally speaking around the world it is the government who does it. Even the places where private companies are doing it, the charges are going to be a bit higher, because the main intention of any private company is to increase profit. So it is best that government keeps on doing it. But in India, what is required is that we spend or we invest. I would not say the word spend, because spending is something when you waste money, generally speaking, but investing means you are going to get return out of it. So if government invests in public infrastructure like producer services, then there are high chances that economical inclusion will take place, because it will generate it will attract businesses to come here and do business, and with this every other things will fall in line. Now coming on to capabilities, Amartya Sen has said that the metric to be used to gauge equality should be human capabilities. Human capabilities basically means that do you have good health, do you have good education, do you have good health facilities? Now when it comes to India, we know the answer is no. Just recently we have started skill ministry that is focusing on enhancing skills of our youth. I told you 10 lakh youths do come out in labor market every month, and if you go through the report of multinational companies, one of the biggest issue they find in our country is that we have here a huge amount of people, but most of the youngsters who are coming out of colleges, they are as well not trainable. They know academic stuff, but when it comes to soft skills and interpersonal skills, then we are lagging quite behind, because we are not trained for skill in our school education system as well. So where do we stand at present? We don't have universal health, we don't have proper education infrastructure. We know how many people do not have access to education, even after we have education as a right, as a fundamental right. And here and there we find incidents like Gorakhpur incident. If you want to see a special video, it is available on our StudyIQ YouTube channel. Then we know what happened in Ghazipur, a wall of garbage dragged people and vehicles with it in a canal. Bengaluru, recently it was in news because of toxic lakes. Then you have Mumbai and other cases as well. I can go on and on about it. So if we want to change the things, these are the things we have to create. We have to create the whole ecosystem. Producer services should be improved. We have to provide capabilities. We have to inculcate capabilities in our people, in our labor force. And lastly, this article closes by saying the slip in economy, and this is a very interesting point here, that in any market, if you want to know whether the market is going or economy is doing good or not, then one of the basic parameter is to find if the private investment is coming in or not. And in the case of India, it has actually declined. And with this, let me give you a small point for your prelims exam, that GDP figures, remember, they are not released by RBI, they are not released by Finance Ministry, they are released by Central Statistics Office. We have a ministry called Ministry of Statistics and Implementation, right? So keep that in mind. Here is an article regarding demonetization. You have three views here. One is left, that is negative, one is right, that is positive, and one is in between. So let's quickly go through it. The negative view stands for that it says that the government was thinking, or government thought, that the cash basically means black money, and what it tried with demonetization was to squeeze this cash. And what happened? The results are out. As per the negative view, that 98.8% of demonetized money has came back, and only 0.01% of the total money that was in circulation at that point of time has not returned. That means only 16,000 crore rupees has not came back, which is a very mere amount of 0.01. The other thing is that large amount of cash is found this time as well, and it was before demonetization. And this is because we have huge amount of number of businesses, tens of millions of businesses which keep cash on their hand for as their working capital, and we have 25 crore households, so definitely we need cash for our day-to-day use as well. The other thing is that the author argues that this the whole exercise of demonetization has not been able to stop the regeneration of cash. The government is keeps on changing the goalpost. Earlier the government used to say that they will catch people when they will come to deposit their money, but we haven't seen anything like that taking place. The other thing is that government also says that everything will be sorted out automatically because the IT department will scrutinize everyone. But the question is, do we have that many people? I remember that Prime Minister Narendra Modi said, if I have to import people to work for if I have to import people or recruit people from abroad as well to sort out this black money issue, then I will do it. But we haven't seen anything like that going on in our economy. Apart from that, the negative view argues that it has created huge losses for unorganized cash, because it is not only the people who are holding black money, it is unorganized sector of our country that is heavily relying on cash transactions. The positive side is that it starts with saying that for prosperity we would need transparent government, transparent and effective government, flourishing competitive markets, and huge investments in poor. It also says that the previous governments prior to Narendra Modi government were indulging in corruption and all these things, and because Prime Minister is against black money and corruption, so he took a sort of bold step to introduce demonetization. Now there are going to be short-term costs like a shortage in currency, disruption in business, fall in consumption, and slowdown in GDP growth, but there are going to be positive growth, positive side, or the positive outcomes will come bit later on. That's what the positive side of this article is arguing. He also talks about Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. Let me give you a small figure regarding it. So under this figure, under this Yojana, if you have 100 rupees as black money, you go to the bank or to the government, and if you say that this is the black money I am having, so government will take away 50 rupees, that is 50% as penalty. Right, 50 as penalty, then it will give you back 25 rupees. That means 25% you can take away straight away, and the rest 25% will be kept with the government for a period of 4 years, right? And you won't be paid any interest on this thing. After 4 years you will be given back this 25%. So you will have 50 in your hand, but after 4 years. So keep this thing and these figures in your mind. Now the neutral stand talks about that Prime Minister was not about cash, he was not against cash, he was against black money, that is known as Kala Dhan. But the real thing in our country is that you find black wealth or Kala Dhan in form of gold, real estate, and it is also stashed abroad in properties or gold or in other form, and very little cash, very little of that is in cash, very little of black dhan is in cash. So again the third person again argues that government has been shifting the goalpost. Earlier government used to say that we are for a cashless economy, then it said that we are for less cash, and now it is saying that demonetization is a sort of transition of informal economy to formal economy. And he also raises question that everyone keeps on bragging about what RBI has done, but no one is asking the real question of what IT department, income tax department, has done in last 8 months. Moving on to another items, India, USA. Now Trump administration has informed the US Congress, which is their parliament, that it strongly supports the sale of F-16. Here is your F-16 and this is your FA-18, Boeing FA-18. I don't know the technical difference between them. All I know is that they both can kill enemies. Right, now one is made by Lockheed Martin, and for your you won't be asked this sort of questions in your UPSC prelims exams, but if you are preparing for state level exams, then you could be asked, or for RBI or SSB or SSC, I mean, then this sort of exams you would be asked this sort of questions. Like Lockheed Martin is a US company that has decided to go ahead in a joint venture with Tata, and Saab is a Swedish company, and it has decided to go ahead with Adani, right? Adani is an Indian company, it's quite famous. Anyways, so both companies are ready to assemble. These two companies, I'm not talking about this one, right? We are talking about Lockheed Martin and Boeing. Both are ready to assemble in India. They are not going to manufacture this plane from the scratch. They are just going to send the components and we are going to assemble it over here, because Trump is clearly against any company relocating their facilities abroad. Right now, why USA is ready to assemble these things in India? Because it wants to reduce trade deficit. Trade deficit means, consider these two people, these two countries, as they're two people doing business with each other. I am purchasing from you goods worth of 10 rupees and you are purchasing from me goods worth of 5 rupees. So that means every time we do business I would be earning more than you. So to keep this in balance, you are trying to sell something to me so that you can cover this 5 rupees gap that is between you and I. The other thing is that this sort of assembling line, and if they can find new market of selling these items to India, then it will support 2,60,000 jobs in USA. And apart from that, India or USA wants India to be a net security provider in Indo-Pacific region. Now for your eyes only, here is your Indo-Pacific region. As you can see, this is your Indian Ocean, this is your Pacific Ocean, and we know the problems are going on at present here. This is Korean part. We know the problems are going on for the longest time here. This is South China Sea, and problems used to take place here as well. This is Strait of Hormuz. Here you have Iran, here you have Arabian countries like Saudi Arabia and group of other Arabic countries. Now, most of the trade, nearly 50% of trade passes from Indian Ocean, right? 45% or something. I'm not too accurate about it, I forgot it. But roughly speaking, for creating an overall understanding, we can say that most of the trade do take place as, say for example, here oil is produced. Now if you want to distribute oil to Japan, then it has to travel from here, then it will go to Strait of Malacca, which is here, right? Strait of Malacca, you can use your atlas book and do locate it. It has to go through the South China Sea, which is the shortest route to reach to Japan. If you want to send anything over here, then it has to come through this side. So ensuring that all these areas are safe, it is good for USA to counter China. It is good for USA to ensure that this area is looked after by someone else, right? It's bodyguard in this place. So in this sense, it wants to sell this thing. Now there are some questions that India also has. India is wondering what sort of technology transfer will take place with this deal. What about India's aspiration of becoming a hub of the world in terms of manufacturing? So these are the questions that India is also thinking about or thinking on. Now Nirmala Sitharaman, she has took over as a defense minister. She is the first woman defense minister, and as soon as she took over, she came out with 3 sort of priorities. One is military preparedness, second is Make in India, and third is welfare of soldiers and their families. Now we know Make in India, it will create more jobs, we will get more technologies, people don't have to leave, it will not result in brain drain. That means educated and highly skilled people will not flee the country and work in some other countries. It will satisfy, it will provide a challenging environment for our scientists and engineer as well. And no country can win a war if it is heavily depending on someone else for its weapons and defense supply. This is a case pertaining to 1993. Now the most important thing here is regarding extradition treaty between India and Portugal. A person called Abu Salem, right? This person was arrested from Portuguese and he was brought back to India, and at that point of time there was a condition between the government of 2 countries that he won't be you won't hang him and you won't put him in jail for more than 25 years. But here court has awarded him a life imprisonment. So let's see how this will move ahead. Now Kerala is, we know that it is, if you're not sure then let me tell you that Kerala is one of the most famous place for bird species. It has nearly 509 bird species, and nearly third of this is found in Kerala Agriculture University. Now this is the portion we are talking about, and the reason why you find this many or the highest amount of biodiversity over here is because it is located in Western Ghat. Western Ghat is this mountain range starting from Gujarat, passing through Maharashtra, Goa, Karnataka, Kerala and Tamil Nadu. In total you have 6 states, right, where you find Western Ghat, and these are biodiversity hotspot. With this there was a mention of a word called refugium. Refugium basically means that species when they take refuge, just like refugees that takes place in human beings, right? So they do migrate to some other places, favorable places where they can survive. Now some small items or some specifications regarding Western Ghat is that you find 140 mammal species, 510 bird species. It is 25% of India's biodiversity, is one of the world's biodiversity hotspot, and it is source of fresh water and oxygen as well. And you find endemic species, that is, you can only find in Western Ghats. These are the two ones, Malabar grey hornbill and crimson-backed sunbird. And there are hill myna, which is in Schedule 1, and you have Indian peafowl, which is also in Schedule 1. These are the questions that was this sort of question regarding Schedule 1 was seen in last year's prelims examination. Now, RBI's Deputy Governor Viral Acharya has said that steps should be taken so that banks are recapitalized. Now, what it means, what are the impacts of recapitalization? With this help of this cycle, let me tell you that if banks have enough money, then they can give it as a loan in cheaper rates. If cheaper rate loan is available, then businesses would go to the bank and take loan, and then they will invest it. When they invest it, they provide more opportunities for themselves. They create opportunities and they create jobs as well. If people find job, they will spend. If they spend, then that means they will purchase things, goods and services. If this things takes place, then the overall production goes on. So this is the circle, and if the production goes on, if the companies are doing profit, then they will pay back to the banks. So this is all about it. It also talks about Indradhanush. Now this is not Indradhanush regarding babies and mothers, right? It is not Mission Indradhanush. It is Indradhanush plan of government, basically to provide money to the banks who are going through non-performing asset situation, and also keeping them solvent enough so that they have enough capital that is required as per the Basel III, that is a global adequacy norms, right? So this is the thing. RBI has earlier as well, it has said that banks should go ahead with solving the bankruptcy problem. And here Viral Acharya talks about Sudarshan Chakra. Rather than Indradhanush, we need Sudarshan Chakra. In one shot, we should sort out everything. Now there is a hurricane going on in Caribbean islands. These are the these are the islands here. This is Caribbean Sea. On the world map, you find them on the northern side of South America and the southern side of North America. Here is your South America, right? So these are the countries. They are also known as West Indies. Parts of these countries are known as West Indies, with which we have a very good cricket relations. Now this hurricane Irma is of category 5. It is one of the most powerful Atlantic storm on record. Now this is the category here, 155 miles, right? It is not kilometer, it is miles per hour. So you can imagine even the buildings won't stand in front of this hurricane. It is causing huge amount of damage here, and there are many islands mentioned here. Of course, you should scan this area, go through it in your spare time, right? Locate Saint Martin Island, and then Bahamas is quite famous, this place. Cuba is there. These are the things. Caribbean Sea is here. You have Atlantic Ocean here, right? So please go through all of that. And on top, these places are located nearby Tropic of Cancer, so the weather here is quite hot. It is one of the major tourist destination of the world. And lastly, NASA has captured strong solar flares, right? It keeps on taking during a sun cycle. Sun has a cycle as well. Now solar cycle has a range of 11 years, and if you go through the definition, it stands for the amount of magnetic flux that rises up to the sun's surface, varies with time in a cycle, which is known as solar cycle. One of the main thing regarding it is that it disrupts communication satellites, it disrupts GPS. A couple of days ago we have checked how it can mess around with the whales as well, right? We have seen that many whales died in North Sea, and it can disrupt power grids as well. So here you can see the solar flares, and then the particles are traveling here. They come to the magnetic pole, right, of north and south. And these are the lights that you find in higher latitudes, like places of higher end of Russia, Canada, Sweden, and all those countries. With this, I end this discussion here, dear friends. I will see you all soon. Till then, enjoy your studies. Do not forget to order your pen drive courses. Do not forget to download this lecture from our website and Telegram channel. Do share it. Do like it. Pass your valuable comments. Prashant Mavani signing off. Till then, Jai Hind. Goodbye.